Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Silver Tears Tarot and welcome to our Sunday reading. So, we're looking into what you can expect as we're entering the week, the sort of energy that's out there right now, and what's the best way to handle it, interpret it, and what's going on between you and your person. So, we'll go ahead and get started. It's going to be, as always, a general reading for this collective. So if it resonates for you, get caught up and maybe think about subscribing, think about joining us as a member. So I've got the Sufi Tarot for you today, and then the Baroque Tarot, and this is the Shaman's Dream Oracle that we'll use when we get to the Oracle. So looking into just that general energy that's out there for you right now. Remember yesterday we had there's the Ace of Swords. Yesterday we had that energy of aligning for a nice smooth landing. This Ace of Swords has been nonstop. In fact, the other day, on social media, on days that I don't put out readings, I tend to put out like an oracle card. So I'll get a card from a deck, an oracle deck, and maybe some observations, or there will be part of a meditation that comes out. So the other day I decided to use a tarot deck for some reason, and I just grabbed the Sufi tarot. I don't know why. I haven't used it as much lately, and so to have it come out then, not only then but now, seems meaningful. But this card just popped right out of it, and it really struck me. And it was about new truths coming, and I realized that I say that so frequently in the readings on this channel that I'm tired of saying it. And then, like I was saying in the other reading, I bet I'm not half as tired of saying it as your person is of dealing with it. So here we are with those new truths that's brought on a lot of emotional activity in the recent past here. We have the Malika of Coins in the reverse. That is earth energy, and it's like a queen. And so this one feels a little bit like things are feeling out of control for them, and that they aren't quite sure. There's a lot of anxiety in this. Two of Cups, feeling like they want to experience a little bit of a partnership or a togetherness, feeling this is not a time they feel like being alone. But I would say there's still a little bit of that energy of that resistance with them, and we saw a lot of that yesterday with the death card came out in the reverse both on both cards, or in both decks. And then we had the Chariot in the reverse, and it really was a lot of that resistance to forward motion. And we could see that it was made up of some triggering, a need to keep some secrets. They want to avoid some pain like they feel is coming, and then they want to feel less vulnerable. But it's mostly held up by fears around something that they don't really know how to resolve with you. They don't know how to get out of it. Like they might be making a bigger deal out of it than you feel like you are. We have the Queen of Swords here in the reverse. This is almost like a stutter step, or some sort of hesitation in a place where there needs to be no hesitation, though. That's sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't. This is one of the places where it matters, and it's like they're charging full steam ahead, but have some sort of a little bit of a stumble. This is just kind of the energy that's out there. It's not necessarily what's going to happen. So keep in mind that this could imply, or this could apply to you as well. So there could be a little bit of that tendency to want to move this is that full steam ahead feeling with the Knight of Wands. This is aggressive movement. It is not necessarily aggressive behavior or anything, just could be aggressive behavior, but it is very much moving forward. It's passionate forward. This, though, with the Queen of Swords in the reverse, it's like hitting the ground and twisting your ankle when you try to take off out of the starting blocks. It's got a little bit of a stumble to it, and it doesn't really reflect the desire to move forward or a lack of desire to move forward. That Knight of Wands is still very much the intention. Reminds me of a little bit of what we were seeing before with positive intention, but not necessarily this really great execution of it. So we have the Nine of Wands in the reverse, the Ten of Swords in the upright, and the King of Cups in the upright. So there's a little bit of conflict here because with the Ten of Swords, we have pain coming up, difficulties from the past, from early on in their life, way before you came along, probably even before the. It feels very early caretaker type of pain coming up, and they feel vulnerable enough to be able to talk about it right now, but they're also considering the future. There's a consciousness to this. You know how sometimes we hear there's a tendency toward communication, but it feels like the energy of a drunk dial. This is not that. This is a little bit more considered. This has awareness of implications, wants to make sure that you guys can set a couple of ground rules maybe before you start the conversation. It's thoughtful, but it's almost too thoughtful, almost too limited. So watch for just making sure that your needs are represented in a conversation like that. But be aware that you may be in a place to be able to have one. There may be some vulnerabilities coming out in this energy. Definitely that sense of trying to hit the ground running and a bit of a stumble. I'm not sure that necessarily goes poorly, just that it starts poorly. So maybe it's a bit of a stumble, but still getting out at the starting blocks. So we've got the Wheel of Fortune. Wheel of Fortune in the moon. There's not a super clear idea of which way to go forward. And it's not because anybody's trying to hide anything. It's more just a matter of not being able to interpret those surroundings and being in a place of rapid change, trying to interpret everything, understand what's happening kind of behind the scenes, and how to think about what you're seeing. It feels like there's a lot going on here and still lacking in some of that perspective, where both of you feel like you're kind of turning corners, but it feels like you're not all the way there. And neither of you is all the way there. And so there's still some learning to do. Definitely an attraction to feeling warm, feeling confident, wanting to feel comfortable. And realizing that this is, you're entering into an era that feels less comfortable, just kind of in general, and thinking about like going into that already feeling tired. There's something here about being able to get up and run anyway. I like that with the Knight of Wands, and I feel like this stumble feels kind of temporary. So, and I don't feel like it really slows either of you down very much. I think it's, you're very resilient people in this energy. Okay, so let's take a little bit closer of a look at what you can expect as we're coming up into this week. So that's our context energy. That's kind of that base energy. The Three of Coins, things ultimately are going pretty well. The thing is, I feel like this is much broader than you, and it's kind of impacting everybody, and so people can relate. There's a sense of working together, coming together in places where maybe you weren't quite expecting it. And this is maybe even what precipitates a conversation with you and your person. For some of you, that is what's going to happen. The Shah of Swords says, the Shah of Swords says that's like the King of Swords. Some of them are engineering that. Like they're going to make it seem like it's somewhat of a coincidence, but it is really not so much of a coincidence. They've decided that this is a good time, and that's why it starts to happen. So some of you, I know there are a couple of you who've already received some communication, but we're going to see a bump in that this week, especially, I think. Okay, with the Adal card in the reverse, still a lot of lack of healing, lack of balance, and actually having to redefine balance. So a realization that they couldn't quite tell you if they feel like they're truly in balance or not. So this is not a situation. Everything feels like it's new circumstances. and they aren't sure how to feel about most things, but there's a lot of anxiety in that. That Three of Coins says that once again, though, there is a lot of a sense of camaraderie in places where you weren't sure there was going to be camaraderie. So there's a positive side to it. But lots of overthinking, lots of having to think in new directions. It's like, I think I said it on one of the readings recently, but I can't remember if it was one of these or if it was a personal reading. That feeling of like when when you start a new job and you have to think every single thing that happens, you have to think even more about who needs to know about this, who do I need to communicate. It's like with this, everything that you do, every decision you make, you have to think about it slightly differently, and that is something that is weighing on your person fairly significantly. We have a Knight of Pentacles here in the reverse that kind of feels like the anxiety where you stop with the forward progress. I don't see them going off the path, but I also see them not necessarily moving forward consistently with the path. And so that is Knight of Pentacles in the reverse and the Star card. The Star card says that they're staying pretty much on their path, but with the Knight of Pentacles in the reverse, there's not much forward movement, not much of any speed to that. And we know the road could be a little bit bumpy, but it is partially being paved with emotion. So there's definitely that feeling of additional emotion, like new emotion that seems to arise for your person that they are not anticipating. So something has jogged for them, something has changed for them where I thought I caught a hint of it here with the vulnerability with the Nine of Wands there in the reverse, but I'm definitely feeling it here with the Ace of Cups. There's something else here where something has changed for them and something has kind of clicked. We have the Magician in the reverse. Magician in the reverse has them not quite realizing what benefit they bring to the situation yet, still feeling kind of weighed down by something that they feel like they don't have much control over because they don't realize how many things are in their favor right now. So they're feeling kind of this sense of emotional overwhelm and haven't really finished evaluating the situation. So we have a Three of Cups in the reverse. That feels like, I don't know if it's damage being done to a situation that they're in, like their job or something social, or maybe even something in their home situation, somebody in their family. But there is definitely this feeling of circumstances changing or perspective changing. It's not necessarily like a butting of the heads between the two of them. It is a change in circumstances that changes the circumstances between them. So they end up feeling like they suddenly have gotten ahead a little bit in some way. They're feeling a victory. This feels like a small victory, but it's part of what precipitates this overwhelm and this emotion that seems like the cap has come off of it. Along with that, though, I'm feeling a little bit of a triggering in the area of, particularly, once again, the big three. When we see this Five of Pentacles, oftentimes the big three comes up. So the big three, for those of you who are new here, are those fears of betrayal, of abandonment, and rejection. And they often come up surrounding this Five of Pentacles. So the thing is, after this, this sense of a small victory, they aren't quite sure where the edges are of the victory, and so there's a little bit of nervousness on their part. It's a little bit of a hollow victory because they don't quite feel like they've earned it, or they don't feel like it's over yet, feel like the other shoe still is going to drop. There's something about that. Strength card in the reverse. This really has taken a lot out of them. So a communication with them, just be aware that you may be dealing with someone who is feeling kind of emotionally under the weather. So I'm curious to know a little bit more about this Ace of Cups, a little bit more about this uncapping of the emotion that seems like it's shifting things here. So what's that going to mean as you go into this week? It's nice to know it's happening, but also to know that there's this base energy here of, there's a lot of conflict in that base energy. They want to make sure that everything feels and looks like it should, but they also want to get vulnerable. And those two things don't necessarily match, especially with everything happening in the background, the overthinking, the not being able to move forward on the path. But I like this Three of Pentacles, this feeling that things start to just sort of materialize. This feels like people helping people. And so, you know, anything that we can do to help each other out, regardless of the situations that surround all of us, circumstances that surround all of us, anything we can do that's people helping people is a good thing. And I feel like there's going to be a reasonable amount of it here, so maybe even a surprising amount of it as we go into this week. So keep your eyes open for it, and I definitely want to hear some examples. Be willing to put those in the comments, and let me know what kind of things you see. So here with the Ace of Cups, though, I feel like that's part of what we need to look into. Really kind of what does that precipitate, and what should you be doing about it? Because we know you're in this position where there's this there's this concept of reinvention for you. You know, there was a lot of resistance on their side where they're being held up by some fears. But remember, in the extended, we saw a little bit more about that. It wasn't just that triggering, that need to keep secrets, hold back the pain, you know, things like that. But it's mostly some kind of fear around something they don't know how to repair. So in the extended, we looked into it a little bit deeper, and it was a lot of it centered around like a need to protect some kind of ground that they feel like they control. Like if they move off of that one spot, they're going to lose their status. And so they guard it, like really just they guard it jealously, and they don't give themselves enough room to progress. And so this is something they have to figure out. And I don't know if this is the energy where they figure it out, because there's a lot that feels like it's kind of coming at them, and decisions where they reevaluate after the fact, and maybe even question themselves a little. So meanwhile, you're over here reinventing yourself. So let's get you some, advice on where your focus ought to be this week. And then I'll go to the extended. So the link will be down below in the description for the extended. But we're going to do the focus for you segment right here. So remember, you are still getting that energy of it being time to kind of reinvent yourself. Go down the self-love rabbit hole and avoid the rabbit hole where you're remembering something that can give you some benefit in remembering it, but you don't want to spend too much time there. Take the lesson and leave the rest. That's kind of the cleanest thing for you to do here. Also, you are walking away from a bad habit, but it's not just walking away from it because you want to be able to walk away from it. There's something here about you shedding the entire requirement for that habit. So for those of you that I've been talking with who are trying to commit or trying to stop with the smoking, they're trying to commit to not smoking, but they're also, what's going to happen is your need, the thing that's causing you to cling to that habit, that's going to fall away. And I think there's an opportunity there to reevaluate habits in general and to think about how to make the best of them. So you've got the Seven of Staffs. It comes out as confidence, the ability to look at things, look right into things that usually create some anxiety for you. And not that you don't feel the anxiety, but it doesn't slow you down, and you're able to look at it and say, I've got some solutions. I've got some things that I know I want to do. You might notice some resistance in yourself, but you're digging up some loose ends here. So remember, you got the advice to remember where you came from. Keep that well-rounded perspective on your emotions, but have a good time with it. Let me see what I just dropped here. Dropped it face down. So one more card for you here. I like the confidence in that Seven of Staffs. It doesn't feel like you are in a rush, but it also doesn't feel like you get slowed down by much. There's a just right pace. Never in a hurry, but not late. Wow, I just dropped a whole bunch. Let's see if any of them fell face up. Oh, one of them did. Let's see here. Okay, so we've got a Six of Swords. This is like, I think it was just one. Yeah, we've got a Six of Swords, and this is a time for peace. So it doesn't necessarily mean like all of your problems go away or everything resolves itself, but it's about finding, we've been talking about this for a long time in these readings. It's about finding comfort in a place that is not necessarily a comfortable place. And so it's about finding peace, being able to give yourself peace, and even in the middle of a tower falling, or even in the middle of something that's very tumultuous. It's going to involve you getting a little bit closer to yourself, but this is the right kind of energy for it. And especially with the ability to take the lesson, you're open to it, but you're feeling fairly confident so that even when those tough things come up, you're able to find the peace in that. So cultivate that. That's going to be good for you. Okay, so you have, change in your values. Be aware. So we've been talking about this. I think you are aware. You're walking through a new door with this. Okay, so that's going to allow you to make the shift that we've been talking about in values. This is basically, you're going to discover that some of the values that you were raised with are not necessarily values that you want carrying forward. And not so much that someone did you dirty or, taught you things that were all wrong. Just a matter of values that do not work in today's day and age. Knight of Swords here in the reverse. There's a definite fear that comes along with that. That comes along with the reinventing of the self. Five of Wands in the reverse, you give yourself over to it. And this feels a little bit more so I'm not typically one for making predictions. What I do is I tell you what kind of energy is out there, and that way if you don't like the way it feels, you can make some shifts to your behaviors, or you can kind of put yourself in a place where you're unlikely to have this to happen. But what I'm seeing here is you do get confronted with some challenges and some anxiety, and I see you kind of give yourself over to it and let it pass through you instead of ruling you. And that's why you don't need to smoke anymore, or drink anymore, or obsess anymore, or whatever it is. It's about letting something that was previously blocked flow through. And that's something that you're in a place to be able to do. It's a really unique place. So this is exciting. I'm curious when we get into the extended to see what happens, because it feels like the stopper is coming out for you as well, but yours is not purely emotional, because that's not really where your block is. So let's see what happens there, because I think when we get to the advice for you section, how to deal with what's happening with your person, we're going to take this part into consideration too, because you're in a place where you really are able to make a shift that maybe you've been hoping to make for a long time. So you've got the High Priestess, has to do with a connection to your higher self, and your meditations, your prayers may be more rewarding at this time than you can remember them being. There is still something that you're very much trying to work out, but it's not, there's no need to be in a hurry. No need to rush. No need to try and beat something to the punch. This is the Justice card, and this is knowing that justice is going to be done, but not yet knowing how it's going to happen. In a way, there's kind of something, there's something there about feeling like you're going to trust that things are going to be right, but not feeling like you see a path to things being right. So there's a sense in there of still, even with that, you don't feel hopeless about it. Definitely not feeling hopeless about it. Something has freed up in you. So this is the Devil card in the reverse. And you guys know the Devil card is about something that controls you. So it can be an addiction. We were just talking about that. Can be an obsession. Can be someone who actually behaves in a way that is controlling. I mean, there are, whatever it is, you're no longer under its power as a result. So I feel like this is well within your reach, but you have to open yourself up to it, remain open to it. These cards say that you are inclined to be open to it. So this is an openness to the lessons, even though they may not be completely enjoyable, but for the most part, they are pretty enjoyable. There may be some anxiety that you kind of have to work through, but letting it pass through you is going to bring you something far greater in the form of some sort of freedom. And this balance that you're hitting, I think, is also part of what's going to allow you to be able to connect with your higher self and really have that better prayer and meditation. So let's go to the extended. We're going to take this question with the Ace of Cups. What is it that's boiling over with them, the kind of bubbling out, and the stopper coming out with the emotion and allowing this vulnerability, but putting them in a place where maybe they're feeling a little bit greater, like open questions. Maybe I was going to say like open wounds, but it's like emotionally open wounds with the fear of betrayal and rejection. They're very afraid of rejection at this point, and yet they want to approach you, and I feel like some of them will. Again, though, this concept with the Three of Pentacles over here, I just want to point that out. That seems really promising. It feels like in the midst of a lot of unpleasant things, watch for the pleasant things, because that's the rising tide that's going to raise all boats, and that's what needs to happen in this energy. So let's jump into that extended. The link is going to be below. I will see you there, or I will see you again in the next reading.